Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Women Have Needs Too. Yes, women have needs too. Right now, I need to get out of the corporate cave. We're today here with Suzette Phillips, who's always had a passion for sharing positive leadership strategies. During the last 14 years, she served for 7 years in various leadership roles and ending her last 7 years as a COO for a successful multi-location business. She has started her own company now with Mind Your Own Business Consultants, LLC, in order to be a positive, resourceful, and strong leadership mentor. Yes, that could be for you. For corporations and business owners, and how to lead teams instead of relying on unsuccessful management strategies that some of us may be having. Suzette and her family live in Tampa, and thank you so much for being here today, Suzette.
Thank you for having me. Really excited.
So we're going to talk about how people can get out of the corporate cave.
Okay.
All right? So how did you, before we get to that, do you mind if we digress?
No.
Okay, let's digress. So you were with one company for 14 years?
Yes.
And you started as the CEO and ended as the CEO? No.
Nope.
What did you do? What did you come in? Ground level?
I came in ground level. I was a customer service representative. Within a year, I was the office manager, going over into customer service manager, and then I would go into being a site manager, helping out and all that. And then in my last 7 years is when I became COO.
So this gives hope to a lot of people because we're in a tumultuous time right now where there are a lot of people who may have to start over. And you don't necessarily have to start over at the beginning, okay? But if you're going into a new industry, so let's say you've been with one industry for 7 to 10 years, and then all of a sudden, the rug has been ripped from underneath you. You may be starting in a new industry, and you may be starting to reprove yourself, and you may be capable of becoming the COO at that time. But a lot of times when you're coming in with a new company, you have to start at the bottom. I like how this gives people hope that when they start at an entry-level type position, there's no boundary, there's no ceiling.
No.
You can create that for yourself. Number one, tell us what number one, be a good employee.
You need to be a good employee,
Yep.
Make sure you're there on time. You are very professional, you do good at your job, You're great at customer service. And as long as you are an outstanding employee, there's really no ceiling for you. You should be able to hit as many levels as possible, just working with the company and proving yourself.
Yes, you have to prove yourself. I mean, does the word no ever exist when you're working for somebody? I mean, sometimes it does.
Yes, you're allowed to say no.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So, some people, I've been working for 34 years, so I've been in the job area for a long time. So when I was in the job, when I started 34 years ago, and then of course some more, I was in that area where if the office manager or the boss said jump, you went
How high?
and then you just did it that way. Well, now it's changed. It's changed a lot since our millennials have come into the workplace, and they have helped show us how to do work-life balance, or try to juggle those balls for work-life balance. So
it's very true. They've been very demanding on their flex hours. The millennials,
yes.
And I don't even know if it's even the millennials as much as it's the generation after that. Who's the generation after that? I can't remember. But the younger ones, the ones just coming out of college, and in the last 5 to 10 years, let's say, they have been more about flex hours. They're more been working remote.
You know why, right?
Why?
Because they've seen their parents work
so much.
70, 80 hours a week.
And they don't want to do it.
And they don't want to do it. They want to be there for their life. They want to be there for when they have children. They want to be there. They want to be present in their life. There is a way to be present in your job and in your life. You just have to juggle
And I
it.
get it. And for the longest time, I thought, well, you know, because I sit on the advisory board of Rosen School of Hospitality, and I would tell the students, you have to pay your dues. I had to pay my dues. You have to pay your dues too. But guess what? They don't have to pay as many dues as we had to. It seems.
It seems. What happens is that the younger generations coming in, and because they don't always know how to show the proper respect, they get shut down quite a bit.
It's true.
So they have to pay a different type of due, and they don't wait around. They just, I'm out of here.
They don't have any patience. I should say they have low patience.
No patience.
Which is not it's not a negative, okay, in some ways. I'm not trying to downtrod that generation because they are very valuable.
Very.
They are extremely valuable, but they have a different mindset than our generation.
Right.
They have a totally different mindset. And I bet managing them is different too. And so that's when you come in and helping those business owners
Right.
help manage them and help their communication.
Yes. Because what happens is that my management style is I'm more of a chameleon. You know, you need to learn how to manage the personality in front of you, not manage to your personality and everybody else has to conform to you. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
You have to conform to the personality that is in front of you. And there's so many different personalities out there. Even our generation that we are, they are seeing the younger generations with wanting flex hours and this and that. So they're changing our mindset as well. But the generation we grew up in, those owners or bosses or whatnot, they have to learn to change as well. They need to change their spots.
It's all about evolution. It's all about evolution. And it's funny because, you know, you always, I shouldn't say you, but I always think, well, I need to conform to the management style. And that's how I've always felt. But really, I think, don't they need to meet in the middle?
They should meet in the middle. But what happens is that they're not as easy to trust us. So we have to, the respect. So you have to earn their respect. Show them respect first. I know it sounds backwards, but you should show everybody respect immediately. And once they get comfortable with you, they let their guard down. And that's when they start meeting you in the middle. They're taking the time to really actively listen to you, because people don't like to actively listen. They're like, right. But they need to actively listen to what you're saying. And once they get comfortable and they respect you for who you are and your management style, your leadership style, they meet you halfway. Sometimes they just bypass you and they'll do anything they can to help you.
I love it. I love it. So what made you decide to write a book?
Well, I've been going to some networking meetings and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I went to a particular networking meeting and I came across Now Press Publishing. Yeah. So I met Lisa Marie Garcia and Linda Bull over there. And I heard they were talking about everything with writing a book, and I thought to myself, that sounds good. And then, of course, I talked to the ladies, and especially Linda. I talked quite a bit with Linda Bull, and she's like, no, your story needs to be heard. And I thought,
well, let's talk about your story. Tell us about your story.
Well, I worked for a wonderful company for 14 years. Somewhere around 2014, I lost my mother suddenly. And when you lose somebody like that it just feels like a part of your soul's missing, and it's especially like your mother or your father or something like that, my priorities change. Before that, I worked 75, 80-hour weeks, and that was constant. It wasn't a break. It was pretty much constant how it averaged out. And you're dealing with all the stress and whatnot, because I was up to 13 medications a day with all my stress levels. I was
Oh
taking
my
blood pressure
gosh.
medication twice a day. I was taking all these other things. I would get really sick once a year with all different type of stuff.
Yeah.
But when I lost my mom, I was, the first couple years after she was gone, I was struggling,
Yeah.
trying to think, how can I change things around, because it's those golden handcuffs that you have to your job, because you think, how am I going to live if I just walk away?
Yeah.
But I love my job so much, how could I walk away from it?
Right. And then you feel
But
like
you're
you're
sick. You get-
leaving them high and dry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I loved my job. I loved who I worked for. I loved my team. They were just wonderful. And you're talking about 100 staff members, and I
Right.
felt like I was mom to 100
Aw.
people.
Yeah.
So everybody would say, "How many children do you have?" Instead of saying one, I said 100.
Yeah.
So it's that way.
That's
but
neat.
once I got to a certain point, you have to learn when to say no.
Yeah.
No, I can't stay late.
Because you were
I
working
was-
70 or 80 hours a week.
Right.
And then you lost your mom, and then you thought, is that all there is? Is work.
Is
and
work.
you didn't want that to be
No,
all
and
there
I was so sick. I was getting sick, and I was taking so many medications. It's like, it's not worth it. It's
No.
really not. So one day I just was like, I can't go back. I just can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the job, it was just what I was putting myself through.
Right.
And there was no work-life balance at all.
Yeah.
So I decided that I was going to put my 2 weeks notice in and start Mind Your Business Consultants.
And did your boss like flip a wig? How did she take it?
She was stunned,
Yeah.
and her partner, which is her mother, was very stunned as well. And they were just like, "You sure about this?" And I said, "Well, I'm not sure about anything, but I know."
But you knew you had to
I
do
knew
it.
I had to do
You
it.
knew you had
I
to do
had
it.
to because of
Absolutely.
my health. And within 2 to 3 months, I didn't need blood pressure medication anymore.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not on any blood pressure medication.
How many medications are you on now?
3.
That's amazing. That's great. Can I tell you a quick story?
Sure.
So I come from a grandmother on my mother's side who I can't, the last several years of her life, probably more than that, but she was up to 20 something pills a day, at least 17. And I think there were times where she was on like 21 pills. And I lived with her for a brief period for about 4 months. And I thought that was crazy. And then I thought, I do not want this. And then my mother, who said, I will not become my mother, I will not become my mother, she ended up falling into the same trap of depending on pills to mask an issue. And so she ended up, at the end of her life, the last 10 years of her life, she was up to about 17 pills a day. And I had a time back in 2017 when I'm on Synthroid, and I've been on Synthroid for hypothyroidism for about
Me as well.
30 years, for right about 30 years. And I swore that was going to be the only pill I ever took. And it is. It's still the only
That's
one.
good.
But what happened was back in 2017, I had a setback in my health. And I was scared. And I decided then, I'm like, I had an appointment with an ENT and a nutritionist on the same exact day. And I went to the ENT first. He gave me a sheet. And I went straight from there and went to the nutritionist. And she said, why are you here? And I said, I went to the ENT today, and this is what he told me to do. And she took the piece of paper and balled it up and threw it in the trash. And she said, we can heal you with food. And the right food, yes. Food is medicine. And so, and I cried in her office probably the first 5 visits because I was determined not to let medication rule my life. And so to this day, I am still on my Synthroid because I basically don't have a thyroid, so I have to have it. But I am reducing my dosage through medicating myself with the proper foods. So I'm sorry to take away from your story, but I'm adding to it because
no.
it is so important that people know that they don't have to have pills to keep them alive.
Right.
What we need is education on eating healthy and getting stress out of your life. Stress
Right.
is the number one killer.
And that's what got me, because when I would ever go to the doctor, my doctor would always say, "Can you leave your job?" 3 times
And
in
you're like,
14 years.
"No."
He asked me, "Can you leave your job?" I said, "Sure, if you pay my bills."
Because he knew that was killing you.
He did. The pills just kept going up. My husband one time was looking at me. He goes, "What are you taking those for?"
Yeah.
I said, "I'm taking them to live. Otherwise, I might stroke out."
And you were on
that's
how many
I lost
pills?
My mom. My mom was progressive MS that caused her stroke to come on. She was on tons of pills, and I don't want to end up like my mom with
That's
the
what-
stroke.
that's where I was.
And I was taking 13 pills.
Yeah.
And then there were times I was taking more. I had to have iron infusions, the whole deal, because the stress
And now
in
you're
my
on
life.
3. That's amazing.
Yeah,
And so
So-
you started your own company.
I did. I started my own
And your
company.
business is
Mind Your Business Consultants.
Mind Your Business Consultants. And so if we, because we have about 5 minutes left, if we, how do you work? What is your protocol when you go into a new business that you just took on as a client?
Well, my first hour with my client is a free consultation, and I will ask them several questions to find out what struggles they are having. And depending on the struggles would be what I would do. But usually the first step is blending into the wall like a flower and just watching.
Like the undercover boss.
Right.
I'm not here, so you
Yeah.
don't see me.
Right.
Yeah.
You
And
end up being like a
that's the
shopper.
intel. You go in and do the intel.
You have to
I
see
love
how
it.
people work
Yeah.
without worrying that somebody's over their shoulders or, oh, the boss
love
is
it.
here. So you want to
Yeah.
be like a client or, whatever the situation is with the business.
Right.
Um,
Now,
So-
I'm sure there's a lot of businesses out there that are thinking, my business is running fine. I pay my bills, I pay my employees, and I live a good life. But that doesn't mean that your business is running at optimum.
no,
Is that right?
it's correct.
How does a person, how do they assess their own situation and know that they need to hire you?
Well, the thing is that you cannot be there every day from the moment you open to the moment you close. So what do you think is happening when you're not there? What do you think is happening when you walk out the door to either go to lunch or to go visit a client or whatever it might be?
Right.
You want to know, how does my team act when I'm not there? And the way to do something like that is to hire a shopper. So I offer that service to where
Oh.
if they want to hire me, then I will act as a shopper and
That's a
come
great
in
idea.
and put their team through the paces.
I
and
love
see
it.
how they react.
I love it.
How they answer the phones. I mean,
Yeah.
do they answer the phones with the best customer service
With a
or do
smile
they-
on their face?
Right,
Because
or
that's
do
how
you-
we should answer the phone.
We should, but sometimes you get that so-and-so company, how can I help you? And you can tell they're not happy.
They're not happy being there.
I see it all the time.
Yeah.
So but I don't.
Richard Branson, to quote Richard Branson, it goes something like, if you make your employees happy, you don't have to worry about your customers because your employees will make your customers happy.
Exactly, because they are, they're the front line. So you have to make sure they're happy. So what kind of, feel do you have in your office? What is your
What
culture?
is the atmosphere? What's the culture?
So if you're having a problem with the culture, then you should really think about bringing someone like me in, because we're going to look at the culture. We're going to help you see if you're managing as a manager or as a leader, because there's a huge difference between a manager and a leader. So a manager is going to like tug you along the way, whereas a leader is going to steer you and push you and guide you in the right direction.
Yeah.
So you have to have more of that mindset than the other for your team to be happy. Of course your team isn't always going to be happy, but you want them happy most of the time.
I agree.
Instead of, most of the time they're unhappy.
Is culture something that you can just flip a switch and change it overnight, or is it something that needs to be done gradually? I mean, or can it do both? Can you do it both ways?
You can do it both ways.
Okay.
My last job that I worked at, they would send me to locations that might be struggling. So they would send me over there, and
That's right. You told me you were the fixer.
I was the fixer.
Yeah.
Yes. My boss used to call me the fixer, just like that. And so I would go over there and I would watch everything for the first couple of days, and from there I would put a plan into place. And I've had it to be where within 24 to 48 hours after I'm there, the culture has flipped.
Really?
Or if it's really bad, it just took a week.
Okay.
So
not like an annual plan, like a year-long plan where we're
Well,
gonna.
it's the management. It's the leadership. That leader needs to be able to listen to their team. They need to be able to guide their team, and they need to be able to be there with an open door policy, because if something's wrong, they need to come and talk to you. And say, I'm having problems. They trust you for that. And that's how you keep your team happy. You have to have that open door policy.
I love it. So what will people learn in the book?
The people will
Get Out of the Corporate Cave, Leadership for the Real World. I love it. Great title.
Thank you. They are going to learn how to become leaders. They're going to learn how to.
But what if people think that they're already a good leader?
Well, people also have to want to be able to learn.
Oh, there's the key right there.
That's right. They have to be open-minded. They have to be open-minded enough to want to learn, to know that they're struggling with their own leadership.
I love it. So is there one key tip that we can leave people, because we're going to wrap it up?
This is a tip that I tell everybody, and I've stated it earlier, is that you can say no.
You can say no.
You can say no.
And this goes to leaders all the way down to the CSR or the janitor.
Yes, because if you can't always put your family on the back burner, so you can respectfully say no.
How do you? So give us an example.
So if the boss comes in and says, Suzette, I need you to stay a couple hours because da 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 da, and I'll look at them and say, you know what, Susan, unfortunately I can't. I promised my daughter and my husband I'd be home for dinner tonight because I wasn't there last night, so I really can't stay tonight. If you give me enough notice, then I can make sure that I stay tomorrow night or the next night, but tonight I can't.
Good.
So as long as you're being respectful and you're not, just reacting to the situation, it will work out for you.
So don't be afraid to say no.
Don't be afraid to say no.
I love it. Don't be afraid to say yes sometimes too.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure. And I want, where can people find your book?
GetOutOfTheCorporateCave.com.
GetOutOfTheCorporateCave.com. GetOutOfTheCorporateCave.com. Leadership for the Real World. Thank you for joining us today. Women have needs too. Right now, I need to take another look at my business and see if I'm doing the right things. Call Suzette, buy her book, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Stay inspired. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me. It was